So talk therapy alone is not going to help you resolve your emotional eating. So if you're new here, welcome. My name is Michelle. I'm a certified holistic nutritionist specializing in emotional eating. And disclaimer, I have nothing against therapy, against talk therapy. If you use a modality and it works for you, great. But if you've been trying talk therapy to help your emotional eating and it hasn't worked, then stick around. I'm going to share a bit more about this. So years ago, when I was an emotional eater, part of my journey and in that process of trying to resolve my emotional eating was going to talk therapy. I went to cognitive behavioral therapy, and it was for a variety of reasons. And one of them was my out of control behavior with food, with binging, with restriction, with dieting. And so that was about almost a 2-year journey in talk therapy. And it didn't help me resolve my emotional eating. I didn't find a significant change in my emotional eating over that time period. And at one point, my therapist handed me a diet book. I think it was a South Beach diet. And looking back, I think that was her effort to try to give me a template on what could work for my body, but it wasn't helping me to connect back to my body. And so from that point of going to talk therapy, I also had seen a personal trainer. I was seeing a nutritionist. I was seeing a chiropractor, and I spent a significant amount of time with each of these practitioners. I didn't just do a one-off session. I did several months with a chiropractor, a couple of months with a nutritionist. I was almost 2 years in talk therapy, several months with a personal trainer. I was also in counseling, and I was reading a lot of books on psychology and really trying to dig into what was happening, because the biggest impact that my emotional eating was having on me was feeling really out of control with food, with my body, with my self-esteem, with my confidence. And going to therapy was helpful. A session, you talk to someone, it is helpful, you feel relieved, but after, I didn't know what to do. So the exercises that I was given were, rewrite your thoughts. I did some type of, affirmation work, and I diligently stuck with this. Even after I finished therapy, I spent years just doing these exercises, hoping and praying that one day things would just actually work. As I was diving into my emotional eating pattern, which I had to do because I decided nothing worked, I threw everything in the garbage and moved to Korea to teach. So I was an analytical chemist, moved to Korea to teach. I just needed a break from everything that was going on, and I wanted to start fresh. And I threw everything I was doing out the window, and I just started from a fresh slate. Because I had to do something, because now my emotional eating, it was really glaring and in my face, and I had to do something about it. I had to figure it out. And step by step, I started figuring it out. I found some resources that started to make me aware that there was this emotional hunger versus this true hunger. I started to understand what hunger looked like in my body, and some of the patterns that might be under my emotional eating. And these weren't things we directly addressed in therapy. We spent a lot of time talking about my week and trying to, the kind of circling around, this is happening. I might remember something from the past. And some weeks in therapy, to be honest, I would just go in and nothing would really come up to resolve. And it just didn't feel like it was helping my life move forward in the way that I needed it to. And so when I look back and I really think about therapy, and I've worked with so many clients helping them resolve their emotional eating, talk therapy, you're really kind of sitting there. The point of it is to talk and for it to organically flow out of you what's happening. But there is such a flaw in this, because you might become aware of something, but it's really in your conscious mind. All of our traumas and unresolved issues, they're really in our subconscious. They're below the surface. And our subconscious mind makes up about 95% of what's going on, and it's in our body. Our body holds on to these core memories, these patterns. In our subconscious, this is why our heart is beating. This is why my heart is beating as I'm talking. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to think about breathing. It's like when you learn to drive, you don't have to think about it. The pattern becomes automatic. And it's the same thing with your emotional eating. But when you're in talk therapy and you're consciously trying to figure out why you're doing what you're doing or how to resolve it, you're really just exploring and trying to become aware of what's going on. You're not actually resolving the pattern. You're not actually getting into the pattern, into what created the pattern, which is an unresolved event, a trauma. You're not doing the deeper work of processing and integrating those emotions surrounding it and limiting beliefs and actually finding true resolution and a new way to be with that discomfort and those uncomfortable emotions. Not a band-aid, not food. We're looking to resolve it and meet your true needs. And in talk therapy, yes, some needs are met in this sort of way, but it's not getting into the deep root. And so when I'm working with clients, my goal is to help them resolve their emotional eating. That is the end goal. We're resolving emotional eating. There's a process to move through that. And for me, it's really frustrating when I see clients spending years and years in therapy and looking for a solution and not finding it. And, therapists not being specialized enough and not having the right tools and understanding of this issue to go deeper. So I've had clients, literally go to therapists saying, this is my issue. And those therapists taking those clients on. And, I was the same way when I was in therapy. It's almost like I feel like you're sold that this is a process and we take our time and, we don't know how long it'll take. And to a degree, I tell my clients that, but the pattern I see is within 12 weeks, we can get a handle on this. If they need additional sessions, it's there, but this is the process. There's no, in 2 years, you're going to resolve your emotional eating. It's like, this is what you need to do. These are the tools. This is the process. This is the support. This is the guidance. And that is empowering. When we're emotional eaters, a lot of the times we feel disempowered, we feel broken, we feel something's wrong with us. And when we go to a therapist that's saying we don't know how long it'll take and they don't have the right attunement or awareness of this issue, then we are really left in their hands because we're looking to them to support us through a process, through resolving this. And so what I want to say is that talk therapy doesn't work to resolve your emotional eating. It's a very small piece of the puzzle. It's great if you've been to talk therapy and you have awareness. But what I'll say is most of the time, my clients, whatever they've discovered in talk therapy, yes, they're aware of it and it might come into play when we do the work on resolving their emotional eating. And a lot of the times things come up that have never been touched in therapy because they are in the subconscious, they're in the body and they've forgotten about them. And we need specific ways to pull out the roots. And it's not going to be every single trauma you've experienced. It's just what is associated with your emotional eating. And that's how we start specifically working on this pattern. And as we dig up those roots, before we're even doing that, we're looking at your relationship to food because you're usually a dieter and have this restrictive mentality, your relationship to your body, and we're creating a healthier relationship there, creating more capacity in you so we can do the deeper work. Because in order to resolve what's going on this deeper level, we have to have the right structure to do this deeper work. We have to be resourced enough, not just within a somatic process, but within the way we're thinking about our emotional eating and our bodies and food. We need to have a new way moving forward. We have to be more compassionate, more kind, more understanding of ourselves and the process of a coping mechanism and the process of how we develop this. This is all needed. It's not a one little thing and you're going to be free of your emotional eating, or you do this one diet and you'll never be hungry. Those are band-aids. And if you want true resolution and true growth and true evolution, and you want to genuinely feel at ease and peace in your body sustainably, then you have to do the deeper work. But it doesn't take years and years to do it. And I don't want you buying into that something's wrong with you and you're broken. Everyone around us, if you look at our society, there's a scale of functionality in psychotherapy, and it looks at, if we looked at ourselves as a society as a whole, 95% of families are dysfunctional. Think about that. There's only 5% that are truly functional and healthy. most of us are dysfunctional. And so that means there's a lot of trauma. There's a lot of unresolved issues. Some of us are more on the extreme end of the spectrum. And I would say that's where, growing up, that's where where I would stand, more on the extreme end. So if I can see there's possibility to move through these patterns and that you are not broken and something's not wrong with you, you just come from something that hasn't been working, then there's so much possibility. And this is what I see from my clients. They are wanting to resolve this issue. They want to come back to wholeness and they want to evolve this because it's possible. You're not born broken or not good enough. That doesn't really exist. It's like you're a puzzle and you're in pieces and we need to put the pieces back together and you're whole. It's not like we have to take, a different puzzle and add it into you. It's like all of the pieces are there. We're going to work with it. You're going to come back to wholeness and we're just going to give you the needs that were unmet to really come into that wholeness through this process. And so this is something, and the main goal of working through this pattern. And it's what we do inside of the Emotional Eating Evolution program. It's a step-by-step process. And it's created in that way with a specific methodology to get you those results. When I was on my emotional eating journey, if I look back, years and years spent trying to do this thing and that thing. And I always said, this is my issue. This was the biggest issue, one of the biggest issues in my life. And no one came and said, this is a coping mechanism. This is what's going on. No one had a strategy or a plan for me. It was one-off sessions that I would sign up for, and each session was just like the same. It's like you sign up for a few months, but nothing is changing, or you don't have like a process or a plan really to move forward for this specific issue. And so that is, really me resolving my emotional eating. That's the solution I want to share with you. I don't want you to go through what I went through. I don't want you to have to suffer for as long as I did. And most of the time my clients have been through the ups and downs and the merry-go-round circus of the diets and the exercise plans, the therapy for years and years, and even trauma therapy, psychedelics, you name it, they've tried it all. And this is a solution that's going to get you to that point where you resolve this pattern. And I've just seen it in time and time again in clients who commit to the process. So if you are interested in what that looks like a little bit more, I can put more details about the Emotional Eating Evolution program. But as a start to this process, a tangible start, I'd love to invite you to download my free guide called What Are You Truly Hungry For? This is a guide that's going to help you start learning to discern true from emotional hunger. This was such an impactful thing for me when I first learned about it after years in therapy. No one ever made that distinction for me. When I found this, I was like, oh, finally, I just thought I was hungry all the time. I could tangibly see what true hunger looked like in my body versus emotional hunger and start putting the pieces together of when I was triggered. So if you want that free guide, you can sign up below. The link will be below. If you have any questions about what I've shared today, please let me know. Please be sure to like and subscribe. And I look forward to sharing more with you. And I hope you have a great day.